Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here, welcome back to the railway and welcome to another review. Up today it is a brand new wagon from Oxford Rail. Over the past couple of years we have seen a lot of pre-grouping locomotives come to the market, but what we haven't seen a lot of is rolling stock to go with them, particularly freight. So that makes today's new model really quite an interesting one for me, because it is this, the brand new Oxford Rail Great Eastern Railway 10-ton van. And this is brand new, it's entirely new tooled, and this is the first time that this has ever been released by Oxford, so it's pretty exciting. And I particularly like this one already because the vast majority of my vans that I use on a daily basis are sort of wood coloured, they're brown. This one, as you can see, is more of a grey, almost an off-white colour, which makes this even more interesting to me. So looking pretty good so far. When it comes to the price, there is both good and bad news. The bad news is that Oxford have put their prices up this month. I think people were expecting this. Oxford, of course, are now owned by Hornby, so it was pretty much inevitable. So when I pre-ordered this, the price was £13 from Hatton's, that was my retailer, and now the price is £14.50, which is an increase of, I think, 11.5%, so 12% you can say. Which isn't that bad. I suppose it's better than the 20% increase that we've seen from Hornby over the past year or so, so it is what it is. The good news is though that even at £14.50 or at the RRP of £16.95, this is still a really inexpensive wagon. If we look at other manufacturers, Bachmann for instance, their vans start at £25.95, so almost £10 more, and these are not even newly tooled vans like this one is. If you want to compare this to a new tooled van from another manufacturer, I would suggest the Rapido one, which is £32.95, which is almost double the RRP of this thing. So value for money, as always from Oxford Rail, despite the price increases, still seems to be really reasonable. So looking forward to this. Let's get this out of the box and see what it's like. The new Oxford Rail 10-ton vans. Alright, so I've got to say the box does feel really light on this van. It's not a surprise, of course, because Oxford Rail rolling stock does tend to be on the light side, and of course because this is such an inexpensive van, I'm certainly not expecting a die-cast chassis or anything like that. However, as you know, rolling stock can get a little bit unstable if it's too light, so I'm really hoping that this isn't so light that it's going to cause derailments and that sort of thing. Fingers crossed not though. Let me show the end of the box then. I'll just lift it up so you can see which version I've got. This is OR76 GEGV001. It is the Great Eastern GER 10-ton covered van, and this is number 23109. And this is just one of quite a big range of vans that Oxford have just released. There are also some really quite nice looking banana bauxite vans, which I like the look of as well. So yeah, do check out the range if you're interested. For me though, I'm going to get this out and we'll find out what this brand new wagon from Oxford is like. Generally speaking, I am a big fan of Oxford rolling stock. I don't think I've ever really been let down by it, so if this is the same, then we're in for a good time today. And inside we do have some 3-link couplings. Now, for a cheap wagon, this is a premium feature. I have definitely paid a lot more than this for wagons that do not have any couplings, screw links, chain links of any kind. So yeah, that is something that Oxford do include, which I really do like. So you could actually use those if you wanted to. I don't think I will, but you could. And it's all about choice, isn't it, in this hobby? Right, come on then, let's see what Oxford have been able to do with this. How is it looking? Let's lift it straight out, I think. Okay. Alright, so first impressions, yeah, it does look pretty decent. The finish, I would say, is reasonably flat, but then again, this is not a shiny locomotive, which is supposed to look metallic. It's, you know, going to be wood in real life. So, yeah, the finish isn't a major problem. It does feel pretty light, I have to say, very light. I'll put this on the scales, and I'll also give you some of the weights of other wagons and such that I've got that are a similar size. But yeah, there's not a lot to this wagon. Looks really good though. Yeah, the decoration looks great. The level of detail looks very crisp. And I guess the next thing to do now then is to take this up onto my white backdrop and I'll show you some of these details up close. So I hope you enjoy it. Let's get started. So here we go then with a close look at Oxford Rail's brand new Great Eastern 10-ton van. And it looks really great, does this, doesn't it? I can see a lot of people being really pleased to actually finally have some proper Great Eastern rolling stock. and the quality seems to be really good. It's excellently built, so overall I would say this is a really great van. It is, however, a very, very simple van. It doesn't have any flashy features such as opening doors or anything like that, and it does have an absolute minimum of separately fitted details. My question though is, do you really want them? If this was a £30 van and it didn't have them, I would say this model is horrible value. But it's less than £15, so I think all of that is absolutely fine, and at least this way you're more likely to be able to afford a decent number of them rather than paying for a load of flashy features that you won't use and only be able to afford a couple of them. So for what it is and for what it costs, this is absolutely fine. I think the value for money would have been a little bit better if it was at the old price of £13, but at £14.50 this is okay, I think. However, when it comes to the weight, this is a very, very light van. In fact, I can't find a lighter van than this at 29 grams. Now, to give you some context on that, the Hornby Railroad vans, which they ship in train sets, that is a couple of grams heavier. A typical Bachmann van, this is a southern one, this is 40 grams, so that's more than 10 grams heavier than this, and even Dappel's devastating egg vans are weightier than this at 33 grams. So this is a very, very light wagon. Personally, I just prefer heavier rolling stock than this. It does seem a little bit too light for my liking. Having said that, provided this is stable on the track and provided it doesn't derail under tension as part of a train, the light weight of this wagon actually could be a good thing, because it means that your small pre-grouping locomotives will be able to hold more of them. So we'll just have to wait until the performance segment to see how that goes. Fingers crossed it will be okay. Now then, let's take a close look at this wagon. We'll talk about the decoration first of all, which isn't quite as simple as it might seem, because you've got the sort of lighter grey on the front of the wagon with the Great Eastern lettering on it, which actually looks really nice. It's got a good sheen to it, the lettering has. You've got the numbering on the side as well as a little bit of printed detail on the sole bar. But then on the end of the wagon, which is not a separate piece or anything, you've got the darker grey, which I think looks fantastic. And then of course you've got the roof, which is separately printed as well. So to say this is a single body piece which has multiple colours on it, it's quite impressive for the price. The wagon might not have a lot of separately fitted detail, but as you can see, the resolution in the moulded detail is absolutely fantastic. All of the rivets and the planking and the detail around the doors really does look fantastic, and it is a definite step up from much older vans and such that I've got in the collection. And the same is true on the ends. As you can see, all of the bracing is nicely defined, and these vents on each end, these are separately fitted parts, which of course allows them to be realistic in all directions. And if you look down below, yep, you can see there is a little opening where the real life vent would be. So that is a really nice feature. And the chassis is superbly detailed, really. You've got the metal buffers. These are not sprung, obviously. I mean, again, £14.50, don't expect sprung buffers, but they look the job, and like I say, they are made of metal, which is great. You've got the coupling hooks onto which you can fix those chain link couplings if that's something that you want to do, so that's a good provision. And then of course you've got the NEM coupling here, which is quite a subtle one. The wheels are beautiful as always, as you'd always expect from Oxford. Nice metal quality wheels which look absolutely fantastic. And the underframe is complete with quite a lot of detail. You've got the usual high definition brake rigging, as you can see, which all looks pretty nice. And you've got the usual details such as the suspension springs and the axle boxes all nicely picked out. And then if I flip this onto its back, you can see that this does have the fully realistic underframe with all the springs and the bracing and the support structure. Even some of Bachmann's much more expensive vans than this do not have this level of detail on the underside. So in terms of level of detail, I would say this is a very, very impressive van. It's easily at the same level or even slightly better, like I say, than other manufacturers like Bachmann and Hornby. And I think given that this is one of the cheapest wagons you can buy on the market, I think that is actually quite impressive. So awesome wagon, really nicely detailed. I love that it's pre-grouping. I love the quality of it, and I think the features are exactly what you would want for this sort of price. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. Let's get this down onto the track. Let's see how freely it rolls, and let's hook it up as part of a Great Eastern themed train and see how it gets on. So here we are with a somewhat Great Eastern themed test setup. So I've gone with the Oxford N7. I think that is the most perfectly fitting loco for this video. Of course it is a Great Eastern locomotive. It's also made by Oxford Rail and it's also in the grey, so absolutely perfect. And then behind the Great Eastern van I've got quite a large goods train. Of course not all of it is Great Eastern themed, but I did want to put a fair amount of train behind the Great Eastern wagon just to see how it behaves really under tension. So, first things first then, how was the rolling test? Well, to be honest with you, I had some idea that this was a good roller because while I was filming the details, the damn thing just would not stay still. So I had some idea that it was going to be a great roller, but I didn't guess just how good. So I let this thing go down Gordon's Hill and it went an absolute mile. It's very, very rare that any piece of rolling stock will make it as far as the bottom curve, but this one did, which is really, really good to see. So it would seem as though Oxford have designed this piece of pre-grouping rolling stock with the lightweight, small pre-grouping locomotives that are designed to haul them in mind, which is a lot more than can be said for Oxford's big brother Hornby when they tried to produce some rolling stock for pre-grouping locomotives. Ooh, sorry about that, I seem to have contracted a winter cough. Gauging, okay, 14.2 millimeters, so slightly under gauge as is more or less standard, so no problems there. I did notice during the filming of the detail section that the couplings look really bad. Now, as you can see, they are supported by a very thin arm, or sliver, you might say, of plastic, which is nice and subtle, as I said, but it does mean that the couplings are not robust at all, and as you can see, at least one of these, probably both actually, are pointing upwards quite significantly, so that is not good. I am yet to try coupling this up to anything, so I don't have many high hopes for that. So let's get started then. Let's back up the N7 and see how the coupling actually goes. Let me be as fair as possible and make sure the N7's hook is facing forwards. See what happens. Okay, so yeah, as expected, the Great Eastern van's hook is a little too high because it's pointing upwards. Let's straighten this Oxford hook again and try a second time. A bit harder this time. No. Alright, so that's no good. Let's try it against the Hornby wagon. Any good? Alright, so the back one has just about engaged, as you can see. Only just, look at that, the new van's hook, well, the bar, is way higher than it should be, and it's actually riding up over the Hornby one there. So, coupling design, not good. Let's have another go, now that there's some weight behind it. So that is shocking. That is really, really poor. I would not have expected that from Oxford, to be honest with you. Let's try a different loco, just verify that it is not the loco that's to blame. Let's try the unsuitable but decent Dapol Prairie then. Let's see if we can couple to this. Oh, it did. Alright, so it seems that the Oxford N7's coupling isn't great either. Is this one drooping then? Yeah, I mean, I don't think the N7's is drooping, but the hook does go to one side. Anyway, if I help it, there we go, it's coupled. But again, as you can see, the Oxford coupling on the loco passes underneath the van coupling. So yeah, not a good coupling design, unfortunately. Fingers crossed then, this won't cause problems going around my layout. In reverse though, it's not going to be good, is it? It's definitely not going to be good because effectively the couplings are at the wrong height, which is unforgivable, really. But let's give this a go. Here we go. 50% speed. Okay, here's the nasty bit of track, the S-bend. Uh-oh. Okay, not a good sign. Okay, let's try it with the Prairie, just in the unlikely event that the new Great Eastern van doesn't like the Great Eastern loco it was presumably designed for, and yep, that does seem to be the case. So, interesting. Let's try it in reverse. Okay, better than I expected, but if we look at the couplings you can see something ain't right. Yeah, see that? Should not look like that. Okay, so I've put the van between two other wagons now and hopefully that will be okay. Right, so hopefully we'll be okay now. So yeah, the couplings are really the Achilles heel of this, just not quite right. Hopefully I'll be able to sort those out by bending them, but it's a thin piece of plastic. I wouldn't recommend, you know, trying to manipulate them too much because if they break, you really are scuppered. So there we go, nice looking van, which rolls very nice and freely, but you have to be careful what you couple it to. The N7 here has a large wheelbase and its coupling is reasonably rigid, and that just caused an immediate derailment on the van. And I've here had to couple it up to some smaller wheelbase vehicles which are much better with it. So it's not an ideal situation, but it is able to work its way around the layout under the right circumstances. Let's try it on some points, I think. Alright, I think the chances of success here are relatively slim, but I'll let it do the test, and if it passes, then I will be impressed. Which sounds like a poem, but I didn't intend it to be. Anyway, here we go. That's assuming everything else will be okay on the points, which some of it might not be. Seems to be so far. Here comes the van. Not bad. To be fair, to say that the couplings are not actually touching each other. Oh. Right. So, good start. Wasn't quite able to pull it off. Let's try one more time. Okay. So it goes over backwards well, which I'm surprised at. But no, it's done it again. Exactly the same thing. I don't know if this wagon here is derailing because of it. Let's just try that with a different... let's try it without the Great Eastern van in the mix, just to prove that it is that's to blame. Okay, back. Okay, stop and forwards. No uncoupling this time. And no derailment. So it is the new van that is to blame. Maybe it's because of the lightweight, maybe it's because of the dodgy couplings, but unfortunately it's not a great performer. Let's have some ratings then for the new Oxford Rail Great Eastern van. Overall, yeah, it's looking pretty good. It is a real shame about the couplings and the performance though, otherwise this would have been a really high score. Level of detail then, overall I think is great. The underframe stands out particularly nicely, the decoration is all nice and precise. It doesn't have any flashy features though, such as sprung buffers and opening doors and loads of separately fitted body parts. And I do reserve the 5-star detail rating for models that have that level of detail. Performance has some really strong aspects. I mean, it's incredibly free rolling, which is great. However, my example at least is plagued with uncouplings and derailments. I think this is caused by the poor quality of the couplings and also the incredibly, almost unprecedented lightweight of the van. So that is a pity. I've had to knock it down to 3-star because of those two. Quality then, again, overall the build quality at the very least is high. Like I said, the decoration incredibly precise, no glue visible, and everything is fitted nice and straight. Except for the couplings. I'm not a fan of that coupling design, and I think if they'd come up with something sturdier or maybe something made of metal, then the couplings might have come out straight. Also, the incredibly lightweight of the model could be contributing to the issues I've seen, so really it could have had a bit of extra weight put into it. Having said that, you might be able to straighten the couplings out and add some weight yourself, in which case the performance and the quality would no doubt seem higher, but I review models as they come. I don't review models based on the modifications you can make to them in order to improve them. People always send me comments saying, oh, you could do this and then it will be fine. Well, of course you could. You could rebuild the thing entirely, but that isn't the point of a review. Value for money then, I have to give this 5-star, even despite the increase of 12% in price. £14.50 for a van like this is far cheaper than what you can get from the other manufacturers, and even though it's not perfect, it's still a good looking van which under some circumstances I think could work okay, so I have given it 5-star. Maybe that is a little bit generous, but at least this way nobody can say I've been unfair. Overall then, that is 7.92 out of 10. Not a bad score actually, but just imagine how much higher it would have been if the thing performed properly. And into the logbook it goes then, in second place below the Bachmann blacksmith van, which I think is fair enough. Overall then, that is another fantastic effort from Oxford Rail. They've produced yet another great looking piece of rolling stock at a very, very competitive price. It is just such a shame that it's too light to be considered completely reliable and that the couplings are such a bad design. And that is really stopping me from recommending this wholeheartedly to you. I still would recommend it if you don't mind faffing around trying to add some extra weight or perhaps improving the coupling situation. But if you're the type of person who just wants reliable rolling stock that they can just plop onto the track and have it work faultlessly, something we're all entitled to, by the way, then this is not something for you, unfortunately. But I won't let that take away from the fact that it's a great looking wagon with some wonderful details and, like I say, a very, very reasonable price to top it all off. So that is it. That's my review of the new Oxford Rail 10-ton van. Plenty more Oxford Rail rolling stock still in the works, which is going to be on the channel pretty soon, hopefully, so stay tuned for that. For now though, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Do comment down below and let me know what you think, and I will see you very soon for some more videos. Alright, cheers everybody, take care.